All right, what's up, YouTube? I'm tripping because it's like super late, and I should have done this right after the movie, but I kind of just waited. Took some pictures. Never really got to do a full review, so I'm doing it now. So today I went to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I am a diehard indie fan. I got the, as you can see, I actually started watching uh, the original trilogy and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which um, I think, yeah, after seeing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I kind of wanted more. And so we got the Dial of Destiny. When they announced it, I was excited, couldn't wait, had my tickets early, the whole nine. Um, so, kind of a two-parter here because I actually uh, wanted these shoes anyway. These are the Air Jordan 1 Palominos. These don't drop until September. Shout out to Chicago Emporium. From they have been my early shoe connect. Uh, actually since Goat. I used to go to Goat all the time until I got a pair of Fire Red threes that weren't too hot. Leather quality was trash. And then I actually doubled up on the Fire Red threes, and I can make the comparison. So yeah, kind of been laying off a goat for a while. They did redeem themselves though when I bought the Nike SB fours and the Jordan 4 Seafoam. But anyway, the reason why I wanted these so bad, first of all, the colorway. I love Jordan 1 still. I don't care what the hype is. But these in particular, just feel like the Indiana Jones Jordan 1. That's what I've been calling them. These are the Indiana Jones Jordan 1, mainly just the rugged look and appearance of the brown and black. Matter of fact, let me make sure I got the colorways correct. It is, I'm sorry, the black Palomino. Um, Compared to the mochas, which actually I would have worn those instead if I didn't get these, but actually I lucked up and was able to cop this before the movie came out. And then another thing is this gold on the tongue, which to me kind of represents the pursuit of fortune and glory, which Indiana Jones goes for. But yeah, the leather quality on here is dope. The Palomino parts are suede. I could not wait to wear these to this film. I didn't even break them out the box until it was time to go to see this movie. So to get into it, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5. Um, it wasn't bad to me. It just lacked the same emphasis and excitement factor that the trilogy had. But what I realized is, at least for my opinion, Indiana Jones is a nostalgic retro icon who is now placed in the modern world. You know, when we watched his films, the dates were what, like 1912, 1939. You know, now we move him into the 60s. Harrison Ford himself is 80 years old. So, you know, because I think the modern world sucks as opposed to back then, those were happier times. Yeah, it's not really going to have that same effect. But trying to keep it spoiler free, I'll just say the opening sequence, fire. Fire. Like that opening sequence, you could tell that the writing was on point. It was well thought out. They brought the heat in that intro scene. That was great. But then it kind of just takes a turn. Um, but I guess in the way it does make sense because Indy's mood and disposition when the movie opens to the modern times, it's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. Um, it almost seems like his environment was affected by his mood. Um, the de aging not machine, the de aging process in the film was pretty sweet too. I think At least it did a decent job. You could tell. I'm sorry. You could tell it was computer generated, but it still served its purpose and it did a good job. And then there were flashback scenes that kind of piece things together. So I like that touch. Phoebe Waller Bridge did a great job. I've never seen her before this movie. Um, but just her character, her vibrance, her enthusiasm, she brought it. You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoyed her. The little kid, not so much. Then there's other characters that I think are probably fantastic actors, and they wanted to use them in this movie, but like their characters kind of had very minimal relevance. They have very minimal relevance. So it was like they're in the movie, but why? Like, what was the overall thing? Like, one character in particular had kind of a powerful presence, but then you kind of saw how things were working. You were just like, okay, I don't get why they're here, but all right. So, um, the main reason why I love Indiana Jones is not just because of the iconic character that he is or the fact that he's the reason that my imagination just went through the roof as a kid. I remember going to the Raiders of the Lost Ark premiere in Los Angeles. I remember that. We saw that movie probably three times here, and or I'm sorry, three times in Cali and like maybe two times here. Uh, yeah, Indy was the reason I started acting, started writing. So yeah, Indy forever. Uh, but I think that the MacGuffins are really the reason why I go. I love to see these artifacts. I love the mystical properties that they possess. I love the lore behind them. I want to see what do these things do. And so the Dial of Destiny itself, the Antikythera, I'm not gonna give away too much. I'll just say that historically, what I read, it was invented by Archimedes, and it was used to predict astrological events like eclipses, meteor showers, things of that sort. But in this movie, I mean, it kind of gives it away, so you don't really need to go in. But it actually has another ability that involves time, and so the premise of that, you want to get a hold of that before the Nazis do, for obvious reasons. So, Mads Mikkelsen, anytime you see that guy, you just love him. He can be horrible in the movie as a character, but you just love the guy. He brings it every time. There's one other villain I might say. At the start of the film, I was happy to see him. Um, he plays a role very similar to another one he played in a Marvel film. We'll say that, and so it was dope to see him. Um, there was another character from a Marvel film who worked with Nazis, and he was pretty cool for his part in it too. Um, but overall, I would think that this movie was a decent send off, and in the beginning, I'm sorry, not in the beginning, at the end of the film, the way it ends, it kind of leaves you with like a what the hell kind of feeling. But then as I was driving home and giving a review of it to my boy Ken, I kind of realized what the ending actually meant. And I would just say this. The ending represents what you would do if you had a if you had access to certain things that could allow you to see anything you wanted. um what would you do and who would you take with you? And that was what I got out of that ending. Yeah, so Overall, I gave the movie a 3 out of 5 because there were some cons to it. Um, and I guess for me, the cons just were it didn't have that same. It just didn't have the same that same excitement factor that the original had. Like Raiders is my favorite, but the Last Crusade is probably the best Indiana Jones movie. Period. I don't think anything tops that. And I mean, trust me, I love Raiders. Raiders is my favorite. Period. But Last Crusade is the best one. And I think with this movie, even like the scenes with the dialogue, it just wasn't, when they would have conversations, like the scenes with Sean Connery when they were talking about the Grail and the Grail Diary and what was in it. It was just like, whoo. In this movie, it's like they talk about the Antikythera, but they don't really get into it. Same as with Crystal Skull. There was no intrigue into the description and the history that involved it. And that's really the reason why I go. Like, I love that. So that element just wasn't there. But uh, like I said, Phoebe did a great job. And again, I've never seen her work before this, so yeah, she definitely her character grows on you. This was something that somebody else said in the review, so I have to agree. Um, I think when they did the excavations and they found and located certain things, that was fascinating too. Even though I do think one of the scenes was cut out from what they show on the previews, but yeah, there I have probably one gripe about the scene where they well the we'll say the discovery scene. There's one gripe with that. And I just felt like, okay, how? Like yeah. But I guess in the same thing, it does kind of keep to the original story where usually that is kind of a spoiler thing, so I'm probably not gonna say this, but I'll just say they stick to the traditional plot pattern of finding the MacGuffin, and then there's a twist into the finding, and then everything else that follows. um I think with Crystal Skull and this movie, actually I think this movie kind of has a better delivery. um and I said this to my review, and I think I'll close here. What makes the MacGuffin so fascinating is its mystical properties, and when you actually see these mystical properties play out on screen, you are like mind blown. But I have to blame the fact on the last two Indiana Jones movies why the MacGuffin activations. Well, I'm sorry, just Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because the MacGuffin activation in this one was pretty sweet to me. But the MacGuffin activation was kind of underdone, mainly because Raiders of the Lost Ark set the bar so high. Like Raiders, that the when they opened the Ark of the Covenant, man, it was like that scene to this day still haunts me. Like, it's not haunts me, it's like a part of it's forever ingrained in my mind. Like the power of God realized on screen, like, whoa, yeah, that's real right there. Two, the Sankara stones were okay, give or take, but it was just more. I think in that movie, the focus was less on the MacGuffin and more on what was needed to be done in that part. Um, and then the Last Crusades MacGuffin was just like, yeah, yeah, that delivery. And I also state that because people that may have issues with Harrison Ford's age or Indy's age, you have to keep in mind he did drink from the Holy Grail. So yeah, you drink from the cup of Christ. They did you like ask basically what were they looking for when they wanted the cup of Christ? The whole thing was they wanted to have everlasting life. Indy drank from the cup. You know, they didn't say he wouldn't age. They just said everlasting life. So there's that. But yeah, overall, for the people that aren't too pressed about going to see it, I mean, you could wait till it streams. It kind of just has that like sit at home, stream it kind of feeling. But for me, Indy was everything, and um, I did get a little nostalgic because I said bye to him. You know, in my mind, it was like I'm saying goodbye to somebody that's been with me since I was like 3 years old. So, the thing that I did too that I loved is that when the movie ended, um, looked on the internet. Of course, there was no post credit scenes because indie movies never have them, but there were people that just sat there. Me, the guy that was one seat over from me, there was a couple that was down towards the end, couple in the back. Like, we just sat there and watched the credits roll to the very end, and that just felt like, yeah, like we're letting go, but we want to see this thing to the very end because what Indiana Jones meant to a lot of us. Um, yeah, like I said, Indy was the reason I even got into wanting to act or write stories or anything. Like that was the essential core of what inspired me to do that. And so, yeah, I'm actually acting. I just got back into writing, and I have to thank God and thank Indy because he was the reason I got inspired to even do it. So overall, I would say if you are an Indiana Jones fan, go see it. Go see it. Empty your mind. Do not compare it to the trilogy because it won't measure up. But it's definitely better than Crystal Skull in my opinion. So I will put this one at number 4 in the actual entire franchise. And actually, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to me wasn't bad until the end. I just felt the end was just underwhelming. Like uh I need to shorten this, but basically you found the kingdom of the crystal skull, which was Akator. You kind of understand what this skull is and where its origins are. And so when you get there, you find that the actual Uga tribe is still alive and they're protecting the temple. And then it's just like they get in the temple and it's just a completely underwhelming discovery. They find an alien antique store, basically. A bunch of treasures from every era. Okay, we saw that in National Treasure. Then you find the chamber, which was dope. You return the skull, and then it's just like the skull starts talking. Um, and I guess realistically, they wouldn't have the skull stand up and start speaking. So I kind of get the animations and things. Like the ending was realistic. It just wasn't mind blowing. Um, but I think when Indy watched the flying saucer emerge out of the temple and fly off, I felt like, yeah, that's a pretty good ending for Indy because it's like, yeah, this is something that he's probably wondered about. And when he did his research on ancient civilizations, he probably wondered how this was possible. Then he found out like it had alien origins, which I thought was a pretty good. So even with the movie ending, yeah, I think that the movie ending, I think that that would have been a decent send off for Indy, assuming that that was going to be the last one. This one kind of uh has a similar take on how to end things for Indy, which I thought was pretty sweet. So anyway, that's my review. The Air Jordan Palomino, once again, Air Jordan Palomino, aka to me, the Indiana Jones Jordan 1, coming out September. Uh, so far right now, I caught mine at Chicago Emporium. They sold out at Chicago Emporium, but I do know that Fine Line has them and Stockpile has them. And I want to say it's another site I saw them too, but definitely a fire shoe. Um, I I don't think it's better than the Mocha, but it's a close second. This would be more of a rugged shoe. This shoe right here is definitely more rugged, where as opposed to the Mocha, you would probably wear it. You will wear it to like fancy places. This shoe you wear to a fancy place and you probably get into a fist fight. Like this is a shoe that I would want to take a damn steer down out west. I could see myself riding a horse and putting these on. They just have a very rugged look to them and I love that. So anyway, it's Aaron Tolan. Have a good one. Peace.